Last year, we got outfed big time. There was a non-resident guy that came in with a bunch of money, and he bought like 500 acres next door on an estate sale. And it's an L-shaped property around us. So he borders two sides, and he put in like 14 acres of standing beans. We didn't see a buck all fall. Once it got cold, we didn't see a deer,
Oh, man.
We had everything because it was all CRP previously. So we never had to worry about that. And he, like I said, he was non-resident, but he drew a tag last year. So he put a bunch of money and invested into the standing crops, and he had a banger season. He actually ended up shooting a buck last year that I put an arrow in 2 years ago.
Welcome to the Habitat Podcast, the podcast for wildlife habitat management, hunting strategy, and land stewardship. And now, your host, Jared Van Hees.
Welcome to the Habitat Podcast.
All right, guys, we're back. We have a very special guest today, Mr. John Mulligan. I know him as Johnny Utah, but I'm going back a few years.
That's right. Right.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Doing great. How are you guys?
Doing good. Doing good. Andy, how you doing over there?
I'm doing very well. Can't complain. Just like normal. No one will listen, so that's why I can't complain. So there we go. So how's everybody doing today?
Good.
Doing good.
Got my morning workout in and out of the way, and this afternoon I'm going to try to go move some trail cameras around. We've just been getting, this is the wettest July I've ever had in Iowa. So I don't want to rut up a bunch of stuff and destroy, trails and food plots, but I've been waiting for it to dry up, and I don't think it's going to.
That's one of those double-edged swords where it's like, you're getting the rain you need for your food plots and everything, but it's getting in to do the stuff. And, I don't know.
I never thought I would complain about too much rain in July.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. But it's been really bad. Like, I've had a constant moat in my front yard. So yeah. What do you do?
Oh, man. Yeah, we're getting the same here. I have a lot of projects I want to get done on my property. And it's lower ground, and it's like can't win. I'm not going to curse the rain, but I'm close, man.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of my plots this year, it's feast or famine, right? Like, you have a drought and nothing wants to germinate and it doesn't get thick. And then, like, this year, it's almost all foxtail. It's just foxtails taking over everything. So I don't know, man. Just keep mowing it. Hope for the best.
Yeah. Well, let's do this. Let's get a background on and kind of who you are, where you're from. I know you back from the white knuckle days. Yeah. That's when I first met you and Todd, and way back when. Todd's from the same place I am in Grand Haven, Michigan. Okay. And so I was always a big fan of your guys' show there. But let's hear about, kind of how you got into this, where you're from, and we'll get into your farm and kind of that setup next.
Yeah. So originally I grew up in Central Kentucky. Did a lot of dirt track racing and stuff like that growing up, and got into police work. Started policing in Northern Kentucky, then went undercover and did a bunch of DEA, FBI, ATF type work with some special units there. And one of my buddies was like, man, you got to find a hobby, because like when you're undercover and you're policing, you don't really get to go out in public much. It's not like I'm going to the local bowling alley or even the local bar and doing anything like that. So he said, you ought to get into hunting. So I got into rifle hunting, and that, and I'm not talking down about rifle hunting, but it just wasn't like the challenge that I was looking for. So the local bow shop guy's like, hey, you got to get a bow. So I got a bow, and I thought, man, this is actually really hard. I want my rifle back. I was like, this is really tough. So I remember I ended up getting injured at work, and I was off work for a couple months. And a buddy of mine said, hey, I'm going to get you out of the house. I'm going to come pick you up. We're going to go to a trade show. And it was in Ohio, in Columbus, Ohio. It was that old Field and Stream Deer and Turkey Expo that they ran. So I went there, and I'm like, oh, it's this white knuckle guy, this Todd Prignitz, dude that like never kills anything. And that's actually what I said. And he overheard me and he goes, yeah, that's me. I'm the guy that passes 5-year-olds and waits for 6 and 7-year-olds, you know? And I was like, I didn't mean anything negative by it. Sorry about that. And he goes, no. And so we get to talking and he says, I want to show you something. So he pulls out this handsaw. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I have a landscape company on the side and a degree in horticulture. So I'm familiar with that kind of stuff. And he had like a little brochure that I grabbed and I took home. And on the way back home, I started looking at the brochure and I'm like, man, this is a landscape saw. So I ended up calling him and I said, you need to be selling this to landscapers. And he's like, no, deer hunters. I don't care about landscapers. All I care about is deer hunters, you know? And I said, well, last time I checked, people are killing whitetails in like 40, 45 states, but they're cutting down trees in like 900 countries. I said, the bigger market is that. So we didn't talk for a couple days. He calls me back and he says, I tell you what, how about you become a dealer and see if you can find me people in the landscape world. And at the end of the first month, I had sold more saws than Cabela's. Wow. And I was like, okay, I see the big picture here. I was like, I want to buy part of this company. If you don't want to sell it, that's cool. No hard feelings. Best of luck. Glad I got to meet you. You know, good luck with your deer hunting. Right. And he's like, fine. So he ended up selling me. So I became partners, 50-50 partners on Wicked. And then he says, why don't you film your hunts? And I'm like, that is the dumbest idea in the world. I'm like, I will never do that. Like, I hunt, to get away, to be in the woods by myself. I do not want the hassle of a camera. But he convinced me to do it. And I think it was the No Rest for the Wicked DVD. I shot a buck out of a ground blind in Kentucky, like September 11th. It was like 95 degrees outside. I was wearing shorts. But I shot a buck, filmed it, and I loved it. And then from that point, I was pretty much hooked. And so we grew White Knuckle, and obviously grew Wicked to the point that we ended up selling it to Tecumani. And then when that transaction happened, Tecumani said, hey, we want you to move to Iowa for 3 years during the transition. So what a lot of people don't realize is when we sold the company, Todd took his money as a cash buyout and he was gone. And then I took a 3-year structured buyout, became the director of marketing of all of Tecumani Holdings, and then was the sole designer of everything Wicked. So like the Wicked Tough, saw, the beast saw, the machete, the pruners, even the little hook on the pole saw, those were all my designs. And then, Todd went on to do like the tree thrasher, and he had all of his other gadgets and the grunt tubes and stuff like that. But I got into photography and I fell in love with it. And I told Todd that I wanted to pursue that. So I kind of wanted to step away from White Knuckle and kind of do my own thing. And he's like, you'll never make a career being a photographer. It's a waste of time. People just want to see animals get shot on video, and that's it. And I was like, well, I'm going to try. So I stepped away, and it was pretty humbling for a first couple of years, but I started picking up some gigs and doing stuff for Sitka and Yeti. And those are some of the first, clients that I started working with. And then things just kind of took off from there, and it morphed into, Primal Divide, my own show. And that's kind of where we are now.
Awesome, man. And are you still doing the Johnny Utah creative side of things?
Yep, I am. And that's a fun business for me because I enjoy marketing. I enjoy the psychology of business consulting. And because it's not my main focus, I kind of get to pick and choose clients. And I've had trail camera companies that I've done stuff for. I was a design consultant for Mystery Ranch for a little while, designing packs for them. And like I said, I kind of just get to pick and choose projects. And, ideally what happens is the company comes to me and they say, hey, we have a product or we have an idea. I help them design or finish off that product or tweak it a little bit. And then I set them up with their photo package. I might do the website, or I might farm out the website, for somebody else to do. I will then say, I'm going to get you as a guest on 3 or 4 podcasts. So basically it's an entire launch package, right?
Cool.
That kind of gets them off the ground and going. But I like to launch companies. I don't like to run companies. I'm just kind of like, hey, Houston, we have liftoff and good luck.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Go be with God. Best of luck. I hope everything works out for you. I don't want to be in that day-to-day side of it.
Sure. That's I get that, and that sounds like a fun job, honestly. What about the Primal Divide show?
Yeah.
Tell me about that, kind of where that's situated, what the ethos of that show is, and how that's been going.
So it originally started out as Arrow Wild TV, and because that's what I wanted to do. I want to bow hunt. The business side of it. So people say, oh, he sold out. Yeah, I did. I have bills to pay. And there's a lot of money in guns. And it's not that I'm anti-2A. I carried one every day, sometimes multiple guns, for 16 years. So I got back into the gun side of things, and I didn't want things to be confusing. So I changed the name to Primal Divide. And that name change came at a pivotal time. I always say it was like the Starbucks versus Black Rifle, or the Republicans versus Democrats, snowboarders versus skiers.
Sure.
It was just, anytime I would talk to somebody about hunting, they were like, oh yeah, man, I got this great grandfather. He used to hunt. And I'm like, it's not this primitive thing that like no one does anymore. Right. But so the primal thing stuck out. And then the divide essentially was just kind of where I thought things were. Even bow hunting versus rifle hunting, there's a division there, right? So that's how we settled on Primal Divide. And I thought, but also that gives me an opportunity that I can go whatever direction I want to go, right? I can hunt with rifles. I can get back into doing AR-15 stuff and pistols and, and all that kind of jazz. But yeah, the show's still going, actively looking for a couple of new partners. This year was not the best year. Under Armour decided to get out of hunting altogether, and that was a big financial hit for me. Grizzly Coolers, they brought in a new marketing director, and 7 years of loyalty went out the window because there's now a new marketing director. And that seems to happen a lot in our space. A new marketing guy comes in and he's like, oh, I'm going to clean house and work with my people that I want to work with. And doesn't matter that you helped land them their biggest podcast, or you helped get them placement in this store, or you sold 50 blinds for them through a dealer. Doesn't really matter. What are you going to do for me today, not yesterday? And that's the unfortunate part of our space. So I'm currently trying to reach out to Igloo or styrofoam coolers. I don't care. Anybody that's not Grizzly. And it sucks because Grizzly it's an Iowa company, right? So
yeah,
that was always super cool to work with those guys. But yeah, so I was a little probably still a little bitter the way that went down. I lost Diamondback truck covers. Now that was one that I don't blame them for doing what they did. They're so big that they're actually saving money to hire in-house photographers. Like if I was the CEO of Diamondback, I would have fired myself. You know what I mean? Because they're money ahead. So I don't blame them at all. And we had a very, very long working relationship, and I love the product and I love all the people there. But, that being said, at the end of the day, you lose some money. So, and it's hard to produce a show when you start losing partnerships. Again, I don't have a side hustle. This is my hustle, right? So it makes it really, really, really tough. But, fortunately, still working with really good companies like Loophole and things like that. They've been a long, long time supporter, and will probably, knock on wood, I'll probably be with Loophole until the day I die. So, 5150 has been a great company to work with. Kawasaki came on board, Tacticam, Domain, Code Blue, Easton, and Sever. So those are the brands, that I'm working with right now. And they're all great, great companies. It's just, it takes a lot, it takes a lot. So
yeah, I've had a taste of some of that, and not near as in depth as you have, but I get it. It sucks when the relationship just kind of doesn't matter anymore, and you even see that in regular business. I know a couple of people who've had careers for 25, 30 years. They get a new CEO in or whatever, and it's clean house.
Yep.
It's
unfortunate, and that's been kind of status quo for the hunting space for as long as I can remember. Luckily, I've been on the positive side of it. It's, a lot of times it's like like a monopoly, like there was a bank error in my favor. A lot of times it's worked out in my favor. This is one of the times that it didn't, work out in my favor, and it's unfortunate. And I try not to make it look as a reflection of the company, but haven't we always been told you're only as good as your people? So a lot of times it's the people that do dictate. I mean, let's face it, Siberian, Yeti, Grizzly, Orca, they all make a rotomolded insulated cooler. They're all going to hold ice within a few hours or maybe within a day of each other. They're pretty competitive. So a lot of times what you have to judge a company on is either A, their branding, their styling, or the people that work there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what separates. A t-shirt's a t-shirt. If it's a cotton t-shirt, it's a cotton t-shirt. I don't care who made it or what country it came from. It's still the same product. You know what I mean? So you have to either decide who made it, where was it made, or who are the people running the company and who do you want to align yourself with? So, that's kind of that's the world we're living in nowadays. I wish there was more companies like Origin and Easton that were doing, and Loophole that were all American made. That's great, but there's not. So it limits sometimes kind of where you want to vest your time or efforts or support into. And again, I want to support who supports me, right? The people that back me. That's why I say I'll fight for Loophole. I'll pull over on the side of the road and I'll fight people just because they've been such solid people, right? They're just a good company, and the people that work there are just so genuinely, they really care about my success and my endeavors and stuff like that. So that's kind of my take on this is work with good people. And, I said something one time before, it's people first, product second, but they both got to be awesome. I'll work with a average product as long as the people are stellar. And I've always that's been my career. I've done that my whole career, and it's worked out pretty good for me so far.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, I like that. I think what can be said about Johnny Mulligan in the first 15 minutes here is you've been around this industry for a couple years, right?
Long time. Yeah.
And then now you're in Iowa now. Tell me kind of about that transition, the property you bought or live on or whatever we're going to talk habitat on. Tell me about that and kind of give us a painting or a picture, if you will, of what that looks like.
Yeah. So when I first moved here, the first house I bought with, it only had 22 acres, but that 22 acres, it sat literally inside of about 5,000 acres of public. So I had backdoor access to the public. If somebody wanted to hunt that same section of public, they were going to have to walk about 4 or 5 miles.
Wow.
To get back in there, right? And it's gnarly. Like it's multiple floor rows crap you don't want to walk through. So like I said, it was only 22 acres, but it hunted like it was a whole lot more, right? And I could, like I said, I could slip in the back door of some of that. We did a ton of dozer work. I actually hired the same dozer guy that did all of Lee and Tiffany's stuff. he came out, we cut in, put a bunch of food plots in, had a bunch of transition areas, and really played into our bedding areas, utilizing that ground the best we could, out of the 22 acres. Excuse me. And then Tecumani, they pulled the rug out from underneath me. So when I sold Wicked to Tecumani, it was like I said, it was a 3-year structured buyout. As long as I stayed on board for 3 years, I won't tell you the dollar amount, but it was a very, very large balloon payment at the end of the 3 years. At 2 years, 11 months, and 2 weeks, they closed Wicked Tree Gear. So technically, I was not employed for the whole 3 years. And technically, they did not have to pay me this very, very large balloon payment.
Man.
So I went from making a lot of money and expecting a really, really big check to come in to making $0. So February 23rd of 2019, I had $6.78 in my checking account.
Wow.
So I have a land payment. I had a house that was 4,700 square foot. I was like, I have to sell immediately. So we did a short sell to avoid foreclosure and bankruptcy, but I ended up selling the property for exactly what I owed the bank. That did not take into consideration that I'd put $100,000 down when I bought the place. So no equity. So in February of 2019, I have no home, no equity, and I've got less than $7 in my checking account. So scrambled. And that's really what forced Johnny Utah Creative and the photography side. And I was picking up work from whoever. It didn't matter. I'd take photos at a friggin' bar mitzvah. I didn't care, whatever I could go to. I was like, I'm swallowing my pride and my ego. I'm like, you got an infant, has a birthday party. I'm your guy, the best photos you've ever seen. So that's what I did to kind of build things back up. And I'm living in a subdivision now, and I had some ground that I leased. It recently got sold last year, and which sucked because I knew every square inch of this property. So every time you change properties, you're starting all over again, the learning process. And I always say in a best case scenario, it takes 2 to 3 complete seasons to really learn a property. And the reason why I say that it takes 2 to 3 is because of crop rotation. The neighboring farms change from corn, bean, and you're going to have different movement patterns. So at least 2 years to see both sides of the coin for us here with, like I said, with crop rotation in Iowa. A buddy of mine, he had a piece of property and he made me a sweetheart deal. You provide the food plot seed, you plant the food plots, you provide trail cameras and mineral and monitoring. You've got full access to the property. So nice. I essentially kind of stepped in as a land manager of this property, and that's where I'm hunting now. So I don't own the ground. It's just a gentleman's agreement lease. I provide sweat equity and material, and I get to hunt it. So that's where that's what I'm hunting right now.
Does the landowner hunt it as well, or is he?
No, he lives out of the state.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's on that rotation of whatever zone you're in, however long it takes. So
and he's not a hunter. So
that's even better.
Yeah. I think he came out one time with the kids, just a recreational walk around the property in the spring. Okay. But I've only seen him one time, out there. But my buddy, his brother, he does hunt it with me. And,
okay.
So it's nice. And he's got a big tractor. So if we need big equipment, we can do it. I mean, I've got pull behind mowers and side by sides and, stuff like that, cultipackers. I've got the small stuff. He's got the big stuff. He's got the heavy artillery when we got to break out the big guns. But it's got a couple of ponds. It's got creeks. It really lays out really nice. It's a nice piece. It's about 120 acres. So last year we got outfed big time. There was a non-resident guy that came in with a bunch of money, and he bought like 500 acres next door on an estate sale. And it's an L-shaped property around us. So he borders two sides, and he put in like 14 acres of standing beans. We didn't see a buck all fall. Once it got cold, we didn't see a deer, you know.
Oh, man.
We had everything because it was all CRP previously. So we never had to worry about that. And he, like I said, he was non-resident, but he drew a tag last year. So he put a bunch of money and invested into the standing crops, and he had a banger season. He actually ended up shooting a buck last year that I put an arrow in 2 years ago. And it was basically a short text like, hey, I just heard your shot. Did you get him? Yes, I got him. And I said, whenever you field dress it, can you tell me if he has a lung on the right side? And he's like, no, does not have a lung on the right side. So it's probably 190 inch buck that I put an arrow in. I sent the video. No one has seen the footage because I was holding on to it, hoping I would kill him. And then I would have that footage to put out in an episode and have a full story. But Lee Lukoski and Brantley Gilbert are the only two people that have seen the footage. And I sent it to Lee, and Lee's like, hey, I'm at the house. Brantley's here. Do you mind if, we watch it? And Lee calls me and he says, 100 yards, send me a picture of a dead deer. And I got 150 yards in, called a dog, and never had a deer. So he's like, and, we talked about it. He's like, man, I still don't know how that deer, survived that. But nonetheless, I got one lung and he survived. And then the new neighbor that bought the farm, which is where that deer was living anyways. Every fall he was coming over from that side. And anyways, he ended up getting him. And I think he went 196 this past fall. So smoker of a deer, beautiful buck. I was happy for him. Obviously I wanted to be the guy to kill him and, grip and grin it, but he got him. So that's cool. But I told my buddy that I hunt with, I said, I'm making a proclamation right now. We will not be outfed ever again. So this year we did 9 acres of greens and we've got 5 acres of grain.
Wow.
And we only had 2 acres before. So we like quadrupled our food this year. So I'm like, I'm not going to let that ever happen again.
Hey guys, Al here, Vitalize Seed. I hope you all are doing well. So we got a lot of new things happening at Vitalize this year, and I wanted to highlight some of those. First off, we got a brand new website. We just added a chat feature to that website, so you can get your answers to your questions in real time or as fast as possible. Those actually come directly to us, so we can answer those questions, as well as has some auto answer features for those frequently asked questions. So trying to further increase the customer service that we offer. Number 2 is we are offering bundles now. So we got a lot of questions about people trying to piecemeal things together, so we took the guesswork out of it for you. You want a fertility bundle, add that to your cart, and it gives you all of our natural fertility products in one place. We also are adding bulk pricing. So been asked about this in the past, and we've done some, kind of one-off things. But for those people who are buying, 5, 10, 15 acres, depending on the product, we're going to be offering some bulk pricing options for that. So right now we got that up on Nitro Boost. We also are going to have that up for the Clover, Chicory, and Oats offering, and might expand that to other offerings as well. Other things are new products. So we got our annual Clover. That's a fantastic product for frost seeding, and also for this early spring, especially for those who still want to plant Nitro Boost. They want to get that annual Clover established. You could go in and drill your Nitro Boost right through it, broadcast through it, mow it off, spray it off, etc. We got our Premium Clover Plus. I'm using that on all my logging trails. That's a fantastic product. I'm also using that often with our Clover, Chicory, and Oats mix. So I might use Clover, Chicory, Oats in the first year on my logging trails like I did last fall. Let those oats come in, they'll die off, and then I can frost seed my Premium Clover and Chicory over top of those trails now. So those are areas where I want a perennial crop growing. So I'm using that mix. And then we added our brassica mix as well. We of course have our seed feed and seed armor. Those are selling fantastic, and various other products, guys. So please check us out at vitalizeseed.com. We sure do appreciate you, and we're looking forward to a fantastic 2025.
No, that's a great adjustment. I was going to ask how you came back from that this year, and that's a great answer. How is the 120 set up with the shape, and where's the bedding, where's the food? And then I kind of, after that, I'll ask maybe how you set up the food with the greens and the grains.
Yep. So the property, it really simply, it lays out like a handprint. If you put your hand on a piece of paper and you trace your fingers,
oh wow,
there's your topo lines. And where your wrist would be is the entrance of the property, and that's where we park. It's an open hay field. We don't get a lot of deer traffic through there, so it really works out great for us to park there, and then we just pick a finger as to what draw we're going to go into and where to hunt. Right at the knuckle line, it's so funny because it really is. It's like, it looks like a hand. Right at the main knuckle line, that's our bottom. And we just have a big, long landing strip. And I've got a box blind. That's where I'll do some grain down there with some brassicas. And I kind of leave that alone and set that up for late season. I can muzzle loader and I can shoot out both sides of the blind and this big runway. And then at the end of all of our fingers is where we have different food plots. We might have clover in one, brassicas in another. And then at the base of the palm of the hand, in between our parking and the bottoms is where we do all of our corn. So, my theory is what we're trying to do is I'm trying to draw those deer. If that's our main attraction, when it gets cold, I want to encourage that movement up and down the property. I don't want them to go side to side, which the deer aren't going to do anyways, right? They're not elk, so they're not going to go up and over. Those deer like to travel those draws, and I don't want them to stay at one end of a tip of a finger. So that putting the corn at the top is how I encourage them at least to go the full run of those draws. And that increases our chance of picking them up on camera or maybe getting a shot.
I like that. I like how are you guys using the back end of the draws or the bottoms, not so much where the blind is, but the rest of it for bedding, or where are the deer bedding exactly?
Yeah. So in between those fingers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. In between those typical Iowa, Illinois stuff. I love it.
Yeah. And it's nasty. It's nasty. I mean, it's so gross in there. We've had a lot of blowdown that initially sometimes you can look at it and go, oh crap, we got to get that out of there. Well, as long as it's not crossing a trail, I am totally fine with blowdown and trees falling over and things like that. Because again, I don't want them to do this. I want them to go transition up and down. And also by them transitioning up and down, staying in the bottoms or staying on the ridges, depending on my winds, I just pick a different draw for my entry exit. And I can, again, like I said, it's so funny because I might have to actually take an aerial and send it to you guys, and you guys
please do.
Because a lot of times with my entry exit, I'll come down and I'll loop, and then I'll be in a tree on the backside. So the other part of it too, because multiple people hunt, me and my buddy both hunt out there a lot together, we're never messing each other up on wind. That's another interesting thing. And I think a lot of times people, when they look at properties, it might be a killer property, but they're so limited on their entry. They're so limited on their wind. Or if there's another hunter, there's no way to get multiple people. We could probably put 3-4 people out there at the same time and still be okay as long as we plan ahead and kind of all walk in together,
Okay. Are you guys walking in too? Do you take side-by-sides, bikes, anything like that?
No. I'll walk in every time. It's not too big that I need to ride in. Again, I'm from Kentucky. So if there's a reason to take a buggy, I'm going to take a buggy or a 4-wheeler if I can, but during the season, we walk in every time.
Okay.
Are you setting up presets, or what are you hunting there?
Yeah. So, I'm 47 years old, and years ago I was a hang and hunt guy every time. It was probably in a new tree, or maybe I'll be 5 different times in the same tree throughout the year, but I was packing in, packing out. once you've hunted a property for several years, I have dedicated spots where I know where the deer are going to be. I know different times of the year where I need to probably be focused on. Now, I keep a couple of mobile setups for just, you get that weird buck that just for whatever reason he wants to decide he's going to change his patterns a little bit, or maybe the neighbor plants a crop or does something stupid, he thinks he's doing TSI, but he really just fucked everything up, for movement. So I keep mobile setups for that. But yeah, most of my stuff is all pre-dedicated stands that have been there for a couple of years. Every 2 years I replace the straps on the Noviks or the Lone Wolves or Summits or whatever I've got. I'm not partial to any one stand company. As long as it's quiet and safe, I'm good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know you've been running the Lone Wolf stuff for forever, right? I mean, I still have some of that old OG stuff from way back then.
Yeah. Todd got me introduced to Lone Wolf, and which is why Wicked had the same handle, that cast aluminum handle. That was basically a takeaway from Lone Wolf, because it's quiet and it's strong, right? So I went from Lone Wolf, and then I stayed with Noviks with the name change, and I did some stuff with Cody and Andre under the Lone Wolf Custom Gear banner, as well. Those stands are really small. They're really, really small, and yeah, they have their place. But if I'm going to go sit for 3 or 4 hours, 5 hours, I don't know that that's the stand. Not that I'm a giant person. I mean, I'm 5'10", like 215, but once you get your gear on and your pack and cameras, stuff like that, it gets a little tight.
Sure. I had a question for you here. What do you think one of your favorite types of like a habitat and hunting setup on your place for a mature buck? Maybe it's that one that you arrowed 2 years ago. What was that like? Or what kind of setups do you have, mouse traps, ready for this year for a nice mature buck?
So we've got some really thick draws that feed off of bedding CRP into food. In Iowa, I've had a lot of good luck with deer holding up and staging and looking for, chasing does is one thing. Good luck arrowing a buck that's chasing a doe at Mach 7, right? So I try to target mature deer that, to me, are trying to find does. They're scent checking does and they're double checking areas. They're usually walking a little more slow. They're also seems like they're a little more focused on the scents and the doe of what's around or what came through there the day before. So I usually try to key in on some of those areas. Now, when I first moved to Iowa, hunting field edges was the oddest thing in the world for me. I'm like, because I was always just nasty deep timber in Kentucky and some creeks. But then when I moved to Iowa, everybody's hunting these field edges on food. And I'm like, what is this? Like, this is the weirdest thing in the world. Deer are just going to come right out in the open. So it took me a couple of years to learn that, to where it's a timing thing. So early October, late October, I love clover because I know that's where the does are going to be. And those bucks, when they first start to daylight, that's where they're going to daylight. They're going to daylight and check to see if those does are ready. And no one will ever convince me that anything's better than clover. Now, there's some corn can be great. Beans are great when it's cold. Corn is great when it's cold. Brassicas can be good at that first frost and the bulbs get sweet. But consistently, on average, throughout an entire season, clover reigns true. And I'm surrounded by grain anyways. So if all the neighbors are planting corn and beans, I'll focus on the green and I'll play the game of averages there. So I do like to hunt field edges when I'm focused on the clover brassica side of things. But outside of that, once we get into the November months and we're really rut heavy, that's when I start focusing deep timber draws. Some flats, but never quite on top. I might be sitting on top in a tree, but I'm targeting something that's going to be halfway down, traversing, or all the way at the bottom of a draw.
Okay, and I think run those dates by me one more time. I think you mentioned late October is when you like to be out there. Okay.
Late October is my favorite time.
Okay.
Really, there's about a 3-week window. The last week of October and the first 2 weeks of November. That's traditionally my favorite time. And then, of course, there's always that late season as soon as it gets nasty cold. And if you have food, then that could be banger too. But my season typically starts out field edge clover in October. Once we hit about November 4th, that's when I start keying in on those timber draws. For my area, November 7th, 8th, 9th. I can't tell you which one of the three it's going to be, but one of those three, it is fireworks, cue up the Marvin Gaye, and that's when things are happening. You know what I mean? So as long as the weather's good, you're going to see it. If the weather's crap and warm, it's just going to happen at night. Still going to happen, as we know. But so then I start transitioning over to those draws, and I will stay in the draws, or maybe a draw that's near some grain, very close proximity. Like in a perfect world, let's say I'm on the top of a ridge, and my stand is targeting for the bottom of this draw, but the edge of the cornfield or the edge of the beans is right here. So I do have that chance, that something might slip that edge, but I know traditionally more of my coverage is going to be focused on that draw, bucks seeking. And then of course, you have that kind of that trickle rut, looking for the last does or something, or maybe double checking back through. And, you have the chance of picking up neighboring bucks, which is fun and can be its own challenging thing, because if you know all of your buddies and then a new dude walks in, you're like, well, he's a dude, but I don't know that dude. So like sometimes you got to be real careful about trying to read some body language, and you get a neighboring buck that now he's seeking to see what might be, around or something like that. But the biggest thing that for me that I've dipped into over the years, some people might pick it up. It took me a little while longer to really start to read body language of bucks, vocally and non-verbally, understanding there's some of that language, but also with artificial sense. I'm a big rope guy. I'm a big scrape guy. I work with Code Blue on some of their products. I've used some other products in the past as well. But in the last, we'll say in the last 5-6 years, almost every buck I've killed has been off of some kind of a grunt tube or an adjustment to the body language that was manipulated by a scrape or a rope or something like that.
Interesting.
And that takes a long, like I said, some people, it might come natural to them. To me, I grunted at bucks, I rattled at bucks, and I probably scared them to the next county. Hell, they might still be running. I don't know. But it takes a long time to learn that. And I think, you might have to try some different crankbaits and stuff before, you're like, damn, earthworm works better than that. Anyway, right? So I think sometimes it's trial and error, but, nothing replaces time in the stand. The more you do it, you just pick up different things, and you start to see like, oh, in late October, the bucks act this way. In early November, they act this way. And so you start to pick up some patterns, and you're like, cool, I only got to wait a whole nother year to try that tactic again.
Yeah.
It works or doesn't work. So
here we got to wait 6 years now, to go come try the Iowa ground again.
Yep.
Yep. So, and you know how it is, man. Luck can come in and play a crazy role too. We all know, we know at least one person that went to Walmart, bought his camo, never washed it, smoked a cigarette on the way to the woods, and he shot a 180. I mean,
yeah,
it happens. So you just try to stack the odds as much in your favor as you possibly can, year after year after year. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but we keep coming back for more. We're all a glutton for punishment.
Yeah.
All a bunch of psycho savages over here trying to kill deer.
It's ridiculous. I don't know.
I don't think I'd want it any other way.
I've contemplated like unhooking the tether and just take a header straight out of the tree. Like, that's it. I'm done. I've only tossed one bow out of the tree, so I'm happy about that. I've kept my Irish temper in control most of the time.
All right.
Yeah.
I got a question for you on those draws, Johnny. You're moving into there in November. That's where a lot of the movement's going to be. You're trying to shoot the bottom of the draw. So first of all, how deep are these draws? And second of all, what makes one draw better than the other? Are you looking for, bedding thickets, or tell me about that?
So in my opinion, shorter draws, and when I say shorter draws, I don't mean Grand Canyons that stretch out over 10 acres.
Okay.
Because that becomes needle in a haystack. You can be in the game, but still 60 yards out of bow range. And you're like, cool, I got to watch it,
right.
But I never had a chance at getting a shot, right? So I do like the smaller draws, because even if I pick the wrong ridge, I still might have a 40, 50 yard shot. So I typically go for shorter draws. Also have to be careful that it's not too deep, because I don't want that kind of shot. You know what I mean? There's just too much margin for error in that regard. I like staying on the tops. I like playing the thermal game. And even if it's not a thermal situation, we've all been in those situations where you're like, man, I think my wind's going right at him, but it's going right over top of him.
Okay.
So I try to stay in that window. And I wrote a blog years ago for Ozonics. And whether you believe in aliens or you believe in Ozonics, as Theo Vaughn would say, I'm not going to debate that with you. You can do that on your own time, but the way I wrote the blog was I referred to it as slicing the pie. And it actually comes from law enforcement. When I come around a corner of a room to make entry into a room, I don't just step into the center of the hallway. Ta-da! I'm going to get shot, right? So what I do is I'm literally just an inch, an inch, an inch. And what you're doing is you have a pie, a pie, a pie, a pie. And any diagram we've ever looked at, that's a scent cone, our scent that we're putting off. So I always try to position myself where I'm on that line of they can smell me and they can't smell me. We all know this sport comes down to the game of inches sometimes, or the game of seconds. And if I've got 1 extra second or 3 extra seconds before that deer's like, oh shit, that's a human, and they blow out, hopefully I've already got my arrow released.
Sure.
So the same thing with the positioning of those draws. I know about the movement that they're going to move through. So I try to position myself in there where, in a perfect world, I see them before they can smell me. So that's where a lot of that comes in, and every property can be different. That's the other part of it, is there's a few rules in place, but it's not a standard, I have to do this every single time, type scenario. But smaller draws, not too terribly deep. I love a draw, like I mentioned before, that one end of the draw is bedding or sanctuary, and I'm on the food side.
Okay.
Because the food side, in my opinion, is a little more predictable as to where they're going to come to. And I would rather me watch a buck come at me than a buck slip in behind me and go away from me. Again, wind in my face, hopefully. So hopefully I can see that buck come at me and I can start to predict, okay, I see this game trail, I see that game trail. this is where I need you can start to plan. This is when I'm going to draw, and hopefully this is when I'm going to get my shot off. And again, hopefully there's some communication timing with a camera guy. It gives him a chance to pick up the deer. I know in Kentucky last year, I shot a buck that was right underneath us, no communication with my camera guy. And I remember even when I was at full draw, I take my finger and I go on the top of the release trigger and I'm like, please, Lord, please let him be. I don't even know if he's recording. He's on the back of the tree. And I'm like, I don't even know if he's even seen this buck yet, because this buck just popped out of nowhere. And I'm like, I'm at the end of the day, I'm a hunter, I'm not the camera guy right now. So I shot, and as soon as I release, I looked up the tree and he's like following the deer. And I'm like,
awesome.
I'm like, did you get that? He goes, I got all of it. We're good to go. I'm like, oh, shoo, that could have been bad.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep.
That's awesome. Well, hey, I want to hit you with some rapid fire questions here, presented by Latitude Outdoors.
Cool.
Let's roll here. Number one, what's your favorite beverage?
Oh God, I hate to say it, but something caffeinated.
All right, nothing wrong with that. I'm a big caffeine guy.
I'm completely sober. I haven't had any alcohol in over 3.5 years.
Good for you.
Caffeinated drink, and then milk would be number 2. I drink about a gallon every 2 days.
Wow. Really? All right. That's a question. That's an answer I haven't heard before. Yeah. All right. I like it. Yeah. Favorite venison wild game recipe?
Oh man, 100%. It's the brown sugar wrapped in bacon, like little nuggets.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That sounds delicious. Now I'm hungry. Yeah. What bow do you shoot?
PSC. I'm actually shooting a Mach 30 right now.
Okay.
I shot for Hoyt for a really long time. And I went to the bow shop, went through the gamut, started shooting all the bows. And I'm like, damn it, this is the smoothest bow for me. And then literally a month later, it comes out that they won the best shooting bow of 25. So awesome. I was like, oh, cool. I guess I made the right choice. But yeah, shooting a PSC Mach 30 right now.
All right. Food, water, or cover? What's the most important to you? And you can only pick one.
Food, water, cover. I'm going to go with food.
Food?
Yeah, I'm going to go with food because I can't predict the temperatures on the water. Cover, I feel like I have a better chance that that's where they are. And walking in, I might bump them. Food, they're coming and going. So if it's not that buck, I might get a new buck.
Okay. What's your favorite habitat tool or implement?
Cultipacker.
Cultipacker?
I think it's the most underrated tool.
Would that be a Packer Max by chance?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Man, we love Lincoln. We love Lincoln over here. That's for sure.
Yeah, that thing is the coolest thing in the world. And we've got really soft, some sandy soil, and sometimes we get a little powdery. So that's been clutch for like packing in stuff before rain. And I think the cultipacker is an awesome deal. And I tell people all the time, they need a tiller and a cultipacker. That's all you need. And most people, they go for the disc or they go for a tiller, but they leave out the cultipacker. And I'm like, that's actually one of the cheaper items. So I say it's the most underrated whitetail food plot tool out there. And yeah, Lincoln and those guys have a hell of a product.
Yes, they do. And then our last one and our favorite one. What are your favorite tree to hunt out of or just to enjoy? What's your favorite kind of tree?
Probably white oak. For a lot of reasons. The bark's not too loud. You get a mass crop every once in a while with some acorns. It's a good, sturdy, hard tree, and bourbon barrels are made out of it.
Yeah, all right.
I like it. I like it. Johnny, if you had to pick or take your shot for this year, when are you killing that buck? Because Andy, and this is important because Andy and I are both coming to.
We're coming to your backyard.
South Island. I'll be in zone 6. Andy, where are you going to be?
I'll be in zone 4.
So we might take your advice here and just book our trip on the day you call.
November, I'm going to say this year it will be November 8th.
Okay.
All right. I'll be there.
I'm going to go November 8th this year. If it's not November 8th, my second choice will be October 29th.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna chase cold, so I'm like gonna be at the ready to jump as soon as I get that call, get my butt out there. So
Yeah.
I'm excited. I've never been to Iowa, so this is gonna be year number 1 for me. Zone 4.
Okay, so you'll be
Zone 4.
Wait, it's 4. It's 4.
I'm going to see Chad at Midwest Antler Company.
Okay, so that's west of me.
I think it's west of you. I think, are you in 6, Johnny?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I think he's further west.
You're closer to like Knoxville.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
In that area.
I actually have no idea where I'm going. I'm gonna plug it into my GPS. I'm gonna plug it into my GPS and I'm gonna drive there.
Well, what's interesting is because when I came out last time 5 years ago, I came out on November 1st after I trick or treated with the kids. Right, next day, boom, and they were already on lockdown. I mean, we had a couple that, you know, I passed a couple that were nice. I arrowed a really nice one that I liver shot, didn't get him due to some neighbors, but like it was already locked down November 1st.
Yeah. So years ago, a good buddy of mine, Billy C., he came out to run a camera for me, and we hunted November 7th. We sat bell to bell. We saw one doe. Well, we bumped a doe walking in that morning. And he's like, dude, today kind of sucked. You know what I mean? And I'm like, So, you know, you get up and you do it all over again. And obviously this isn't the first day that I've hunted this season, right? So I'm like, damn, man, I got him here in a tree. Like, you know, we need to get something done. We have about a 250-yard walk to get in the tree on the 8th. And we bumped 30, 40 deer walking in that morning. And before I can get my bow in the tree, we have a shooter come underneath us. And I was like, this is unfriggin' believable. And it never stopped all day. I put out the episode. That was an episode where Billy was cutting a tree overhead. The branch smacked my bow and broke my rest. So we got out of the tree, went to the bow shop, put a new rest on, re-sighted in, drove back to the farm, walked back up in the tree, and I shoot the buck 30, 40 minutes later.
Wow.
No way. That's a great story. I got to check that out.
It was unbelievable. That was the 2018 season.
Okay.
But that was on November 8th. And the buck that I killed, I grunted on video. I grunted him in from about 400 yards away. He literally came in running, licking his lips, you know, trying to smell. He ended up walking down. And the reason why he was cutting branches is I had grunted another buck in from probably 200 yards away across the field. He came down a trail. I had no shooting lane. And Billy's like, bro, you own
on this tree
and you don't have a shooting lane. Like, he's like, I don't mean to point out the obvious, but this is kind of embarrassing. And I'm like, oh, shit. So I got out of the tree, cut that shooting lane, handed him the pole saw. He started cutting branches overhead. That was the branch that destroyed my bow. So when that buck came in the afternoon, he hears grunting, but he doesn't see anything. So he's going off of scent. So he actually walked down the trail that other buck had just walked in earlier that day. And so walked right into the shooting lane. And if anybody is familiar with Sitka gear, the Fanatic jacket has the big collars. Mm-hmm. And now there's magnets on the collars, and there used to not be. That also came out of that episode. In the episode, I stopped the buck, and the buck's standing there for 30 seconds looking at me in the tree like, well, what? That's the biggest squirrel I've ever seen in my life. What's he doing in the tree? And it's because I'm fighting the collar. The collar is up in my face, and I'm like trying to get the collar off. I end up getting the collar cleared. I shoot the buck. I literally text John Barklow at Sitka, and I said, there needs to be friggin' magnets on these damn collars immediately. So that's now why there's magnets on the collars.
Oh man.
But yeah, so I mean, yeah, dude, been in this industry a really, really long time, and I love it. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of changes all the time, and you know, I think you got to keep challenging yourself and making sure that you're doing it for you, because if you're doing it for anything else, you're going to get burned out in it, and it's real easy to do.
Yep.
You know, I was telling somebody the other day, I said, like, I know that I'm a decent hunter, I at least can go in my family room and look at the wall or walls, and it's like, wow, I've shot a lot of stuff, in the last 10, 15 years. Like, that's super cool. But the industry has shifted a little bit. It's almost you're only as good as what your last hunt was or what your last post did on Instagram. And that's a shame. I kind of hate that part of it. When people used to say social media is killing hunting, I'm like, no, it's not at all. It's helping hunting. I don't know. I kind of go back and forth on it a little bit now.
I agree with you 100% there, John. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and that's, like I said, that's the unfortunate part. But whether I take a camera in the woods with me for the rest of my life, that's to be decided. But I know that I'm going to hunt for the rest of my life.
Heck yeah.
I know that I love that part of it. And I know that I'll still do it for me. I just might not do it for everybody else.
Well, I think that's a great point. I think that's why I kind of like the habitat stuff as much as the hunting, because it's like, if I don't shoot one this year, I don't care what Instagram thinks. Like, I'm still building my dream property or whatever, still working towards that goal. When it comes together, great.
Sure.
But you're right. I think some of the strictly hunting and it's you gotta show up and be successful, and people are gonna be like, what's that guy doing? So, I don't know, kind of a weird thing.
Yeah. Well, I know, like, I was in a debate with some buddies one time, and we were talking about this subject, and it kind of came down to the, well, who's a good hunter, who's a whatever. And I said, hey, I didn't, I shot a good Kentucky whitetail last year, but I didn't shoot an Iowa whitetail last year at all. And so, okay, does that mean that I suck as a hunter? Because last time I checked, I still have the number 5 bear of all time in Canada. You know what I mean? So, like, because I chose not to shoot a buck last year, I had opportunities, but it wasn't the bucks that I wanted. So does that mean that I suck as a hunter? Maybe, like, whatever. I guess I don't care. But I think I've also gotten to that point too in my, we'll call it hunting career, that I'm happy and proud of my accomplishments that I've been able to do. I've learned a lot, and I have a lot more to learn. So I still enjoy the learning process, and I still enjoy the struggle that hunting presents. I got to make a living. I got to pay my bills. But fortunately, I live a pretty frugal, modest life that I don't need a lot. I mean, I need a pickup truck that starts when I want it to start. Other than that, I don't need flashy shit and stuff like that. So, and again, I don't need fortune and fame. I do genuinely appreciate respect, and I want to be respected as a hardworking hunter. People, like, when I'm dead and gone, that's what I want. I want people to be like, hey man, that guy worked his ass off. I could care less if anybody says, oh man, he had as many followers as the Kardashians. I don't care about that.
Well, I think you hit the nail right on the head there, John. I tell you what, man, Jared had to run, but I really appreciate you coming on. Let's plug everything that you got, where people can find you, all that, and we'll put this bad boy to bed. Yeah.
So johnny.utah.hunt on Instagram is probably my most active account that I stay focused on. Be looking for probably a new YouTube channel. I'm thinking about starting another one, and it might just be something in the Adventures of Johnny Utah, where more of that day-to-day life. Because
love it.
It might cover guns, bows, gear reviews, hunting, jiu-jitsu, fitness. Like, it might cover all kinds of different stuff. But and bourbon barrel calls. So
bourbon barrel calls. All right.
Anybody's looking for a custom turkey call, hit me up. And I still run my account myself every day. So anytime somebody messages me, you're talking to me, you're getting me every time. And if anybody's got any photo projects coming up or they're working on a new product that they want some consultation on, they can always hit me up. And I love to work on that kind of stuff as well. And I hope everybody shoots the biggest buck they've ever shot this fall.
Heck yeah. Big Bucks 2025. Thanks, John. And this won't be the last time we hear from John.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it very much.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, man.
Thank you for tuning in to the Habitat Podcast. We really do appreciate you guys coming back every week to get this awesome Habitat content. And we would appreciate it if you went to iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen to this podcast, and leave us a 5-star review. That helps us continue to grow and trend in the right direction, attract new listeners, and help us provide better content in the future. Guys, we have a website full of resources. We have a blog on the website. We have YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all linked up at habitatpodcast.com. Our land plan services, merchandise, decals, hats, t-shirts, and I give away a free 5-inch decal to anyone who leaves us a review on Apple iTunes. Really appreciate it. I want to thank our partners, Downburst Cedars, Vitalize Seed Company, Morse Nursery, Packer Max Cultipackers, Stealth Outdoors, First Light Latitude Outdoors, United Country Midwest Lifestyle Properties. Thanks again, guys. We'll be back next week with another great episode of the Habitat Podcast. Thanks for tuning in.